if you perceive that someone is attracted to you, and I don't know how good you are at perceiving that, but if you do perceive that, how do you deal with it? Do you feel like there's something inherently disrespectful about it?
I can definitely tell when someone's attracted to me. I try my best to ignore it, but also same time, like I would still try to like read you and your
Mhm.
energy. Because people don't treat attractive people like humans, and it's all like a transaction in a sense.
Hmm. Welcome to another Thoughts and Feelings podcast. We're going to be having a dialogue today. I'm here with Ashley, and we're going to be talking about attractiveness and how that impacts, particularly for a woman, their experience in the workplace. And in general, I think I'd like to get into that as well. As a reminder, a dialogue is where you're not just talking like a regular conversation, but you're thinking carefully about what the other person said, obviously listening carefully, and taking time to really reflect, take in the conversation between the two of you. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, so this topic is very interesting to me, and I'll tell you how I came to this, to my interest in having a dialogue about it.
Okay.
I realized something that I felt very uncomfortable with, which is that the way that I grew up, I almost viewed attractive women like they weren't the same humans as men are, I guess. And I didn't mean to. I feel bad saying that, but I was almost, when I was younger, I was intimidated by attractive women. And basically felt like as I got older, the way that I felt less intimidated was to almost think of them like just interesting in like a sexual way or trying to attract them into my realm sort of way, and not viewing the full three-dimensional human experience that every human has, regardless of the attractiveness with which they were born. And I was like, man, I wonder how much of this is still left in me and how much of this exists in other people and how this impacts an attractive woman, whether you feel this. So first, actually, before responding to that, would you give me just a little bit of background on yourself and where you grew up and maybe anything to do with attractiveness that was part of your childhood or growing up?
Yeah, sure. Well, okay, you guys know my name is Ashley. I'm 24 years old. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, but technically raised in South Florida. So it was I had an interesting childhood. I moved around a lot. And I met all different types of people. And I met all different types of friends, throughout different phases in my life. Um, in my honest opinion, I don't I when I was younger, I didn't necessarily consider myself to be physically attractive. I was heavy set. I was very shy. I didn't really like to talk to people that much, and I really feel like I had self-esteem issues in some instances. So, as I got older and I started to learn more about myself and what I wanted for my life, I decided to make some lifestyle changes. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like I consider myself to be a beautiful person, but I'm not really conceited. As much as I feel like a lot of people feel like attractive people would be.
Hmm.
And I feel like, that's because of my experiences. Like I know how you were mentioning that like you kind of like made in your mind made attractive women like sexual beings. And
Hmm.
I consider myself actually not to be a very sexual being, which is interesting.
Hmm.
um I'm kind of like a nerd in a sense. So like it's so interesting too that like attractiveness is like subjective,
Yeah.
because like I consider myself like I don't necessarily feel like I can be physically attracted to somebody if I'm like attracted to your personality and your intelligence and stuff like that, I feel like, that holds more weight than me to me than
Hmm.
looks. Um, but yeah, so like tell me about your childhood. Were you like a shy kid as well? Like did you not like speaking to girls at all, or was it just, you
Well,
know,
it's that. So I grew up in New York and Long Island
nice.
in the 80s and early 90s was basically my childhood. And
Okay.
uh, I'm Jewish, and I lived in an area that was mostly Jewish.
Okay, nice.
And I lived with my mom and didn't see my dad very much, which was part of, I think, how I developed my um, misconceptions, lack of three-dimensional view of attractive women. But basically, I was very close with my mom. I was a mama's boy, and it it wasn't very helpful for me to like go out and like see people for who see women for who they may have really been. And it also made me quite shy because I basically spent a lot of time with my mom and stuff like that. And um, I think without the masculine part that I got when I started seeing my dad around the age of 16, it was hard for me to uh, talk to girls and hold my own sense of my attractiveness. And it was very interesting that it felt like a switch was flipped when I started seeing him. I actually went to live with him. Like it was almost like this cold turkey transition from
Oh,
being this mama's boy to my dad is like a party animal. He would buy liquor for us and our friends. And pretty soon, even though I didn't feel this way inside, I was all cocky and like thought that I had all this money. We didn't have a lot of money, but my dad would basically like give I have two brothers, so he would give the three of us, the three boys, all his money, and he would spend nothing on himself because he was kind of living through us in a way,
that's real.
and wanted us to like have ragers at our house and invite people over and be popular, and we were. And it really just makes me feel like I look back and I'm like, man, high schoolers can be pretty clueless. At least they were when I was a high schooler, where like I think a lot of people thought I was really deep and I don't know, cool, maybe something like that, but definitely like because I projected that, even though I was super insecure. So I went through a period of really enjoying being popular and having a lot of girls be interested in me. And then, I grew up and became an adult, and I'm 40 now. I'm married. I have a 2-year-old son.
Nice.
And that, now is about the time that I start thinking about what was going on then and how I really viewed women. So that's kind of the background, just to answer your question of,
It's like a culture shock though, isn't it, in a sense? Like because the way that people respond to you, you know what I'm saying, in general is just so different when you're carrying yourself differently. And
yeah.
that's one thing I've noticed too, like um I've noticed like some people, they may not necessarily be like the most beautiful or handsome person in the world, but like it's just how they carry themselves, the
Hmm.
aura around them that makes them attractive too. So I
Hmm.
definitely understand.
Yeah. Um, but I guess to my original question and this thing that I think there must still be seeds of it inside me, even though I think I do quite a good job of detaching from that and allowing like my conscious mind to make the decision about how I act towards any person, regardless of what might be like unconscious feelings that still exist from a long time ago. It is interesting to me to think of how I wasn't able to look at an attractive woman as just like a full human equal, I guess. It's not that I thought I was above, but I didn't know how to relate in a way other than to be like, you are sexually interesting to me. And that's always there. Now, I don't know what to do about the biological things there too, because there is, it's like we shouldn't avoid the notion that, of course, there's going to be attraction between people and that is okay, but you just have to be mature enough to be able to separate from it and not give in to the impulses of it. Like that's just part of being an adult. But from your point of view, what I'm curious about is if you perceive that someone is attracted to you, and I don't know how good you are at perceiving that, but if you do perceive that, how do you deal with it? Do you feel like there's something inherently disrespectful about it? Yeah, what is your reaction?
I see because I was a very shy child, in
Mhm.
general, I can pick up on energy and vibrations quickly.
Hmm.
So I can definitely tell when someone's attracted to me. I try my best to ignore it, but also same time, like I would still try to like read you and your
Mhm.
energy. Because like you said, there are some people out there, and you have some tidbits of it too, where like people don't treat attractive people like humans, and it's all like a transaction in a sense.
Hmm.
Yeah, so like when I peep energy for like that from people, it's just like I'm kind of like, okay, you already have an idea about me. It's nothing I can do, you know what I'm saying, at this
Mhm.
point, to change your mind, you know what I'm saying.
Mhm.
um Now, that's not to say for everybody, because there have been people that have met me off first glance and probably thought like I was an asshole.
Mhm.
But when they got to know me, they're like, okay, like she's really like cool, she's down to earth,
Mhm.
um but yeah, like I can definitely tell. And I just play it by the situation, and how people treat me,
Hmm.
but I'll never go out my way and be like, okay, you're an asshole to me, so let me just go ahead and return the favor. I just like to separate, that my energy from
Hmm.
that type of energy. So
That's good. And it makes sense how you've adapted that way. But I wonder, like, do you just kind of give up on trying to have a more serious, well, not enough, the word is serious, trying to have a more uh, level interaction with somebody? Let's say you could tell somebody's attracted to you. Do you just feel like you almost have to give up the notion that you could have a serious relationship where that could be put aside and who you are inside could be fully assimilated, taken in as much as that person's internal perception tools allow them to do that? um, do you just have to say we're not going to be able to have a completely like serious interaction? There's going to be a distraction on that person's part, assuming it's not mutual, assuming that person feels it just towards you.
no, I feel like it could definitely be worked through, but that's on like it truly depends on the person to me. Because like, see, I honestly feel like you're a very evolved person, because you're sitting down with me and you're trying to have, that conversation. A lot of people, they go by throughout life, and they have like their opinions and they just stick by them, you know what I mean? So yeah, I would honestly say it depends on the person. If I see like you're willing to, take an interest in me besides like my looks, then it could be something there for sure.
Okay, so you're okay with that existing. Maybe it's something the other person can't help. You're able to, it's almost like a form of maturity. You're able to put that aside and say,
Yeah,
what else can be developed here?
right. But it can't just be solely off of attraction, because
Right.
that's not what feeds me. You know what I'm saying? My soul and my interests. I really feel like I have to be like I have to really feel like I can have like an intellectual conversation with whoever I'm with.
Hmm.
That's very important to me. And that we're able to talk about, the not so cookie cutter things. So it's I definitely like a relationship with layers,
Hmm.
because yeah, I mean, I've definitely dated different types of attractive people, and I've noticed like I've noticed the difference in people who are more introspective versus like people who are just like, yeah, I know you see me, I know, so
Right.
yeah.
Um, that was making me think of something. Uh, Sorry, I was got distracted because you made me laugh. But do you is there a concept in your life of you meet someone, you're so attracted to them that you don't care as much about the things that you generally are saying you care about, like their mind, the depth? Can that happen? Can there be, like, sometimes I hear women and like on TikTok or something like that, I'll hear somebody be like, maybe that guy's good for a night or something, but not for a relationship or a lifetime or something like that. And I think to myself, probably just the old younger part of me is like, oh, do women really think that way? Like they just want to use a guy for a night. It's still actually a little hard for me to imagine that because I think of it as such a male way of doing of
Yeah,
thinking. Yeah.
don't get me wrong, like it's definitely women out there. It's definitely women out there who feel that way. It's just not me. You know, I don't know. It's just I don't know. I can't see myself just having a fling with somebody I'm not like, attracted to like internally as well as externally. But like I said, like the external doesn't really matter to me as long as, the internal's there. Um so yeah.
Hmm.
But what about you though? Like, can you have a relationship where it's just like only like a physical attraction, or would you prefer? Because I know you said you're married now.
Mhm.
Um, are you like do you have like both of those aspects in like your relationship? I'm sorry if I'm getting like, too personal.
No, this is a place where you can say anything. I could always say, I'd rather not put that online, but you can absolutely ask anything at all. So do I have the aspect? Is the question more like, let's say I wasn't with my wife, would I, have a fling with someone, maybe someone I didn't even like just because they're attractive?
Yeah.
I think yes. And I have done that when I was younger, but I was such a different person. I'm trying to think if I were single now, if I would. I remember even when I was younger doing that and being like, God, am I really not attracted to this person when it came down to when we were like hooking up or something? I was just like, man, I really was surprised because I thought the physical attractiveness upon just aesthetically upon seeing them would translate to feeling really physically like excited with them. But no, I do have to like something about them. Um, and so I think I probably even today would be more so, I would value physical attractiveness a bit more than you, but I absolutely see what you're saying, whereas I wouldn't have earlier. And in fact, it matters a tremendous amount. And when it comes down to like any sort of long-term relationship, that's totally not something that I could do.
Okay.
With somebody that I didn't have much more attractiveness, much more like non aesthetic, but like who they are type of attractiveness there.
That's real. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like, oh, like, um, like I date anybody, but I have
Mhm.
like my standards. You
Right.
know.
Well, I have one other sort of angle on it that I just thought of. I'm curious about in your experience. So I grew up very achievement oriented. It was part of the culture I grew up in and the family I grew up in to say that, if you have something almost like bragging worthy, that's really good. So my parents almost like fetishized Ivy League schools, making a lot of money, things like that. And it became something that like I couldn't even care less what I did for a living. I just wanted to get academic prestige and money for a lot of my life. And I was able to separate from that probably 10 years ago for the first time, when I was 30 for the first time. Um, but I think that extended to my partner as well, because my dad would literally like almost like check out my girlfriends and be like, whoa, she's a cute one, and thinking back, I'm like, that's kind of weird. But I believe that he was sort of making me feel that the attractiveness of the person I was with was a form of achievement. Does
Mm,
this? So I'm just curious. I have no idea what achievement looks like, how important that is, and what achievement. Maybe it's very important, but achievement looks super different from the Long Island Jewish 1980s 90s way to you. But I'm curious if attractiveness and achievement have an overlap.
I like to, in some aspects, yes. Like I have a similar family background.
Hmm.
My family. they have in their own lives had a lot of achievements, and in some instances, although they haven't like directly told me, I have like a sense of duty in my sense, like in a sense, to take it further and expand upon that. So I definitely understand. But at the same time, just like you said, just learning, what makes you happy and what makes you feel more fulfilled. It may not necessarily be like getting a degree or, you know, um, continuing your education. Um, but yeah, like I when it comes to that achievements and in a relationship, like I mean, I've definitely been treated like a trophy and it's not fun.
Hmm.
Like I remember going and I just riding around with somebody I was dating at the time, and he's showing me around, and I'm like, hey, like I'd like to go home. I'd like to spend time with you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And he's just like, oh yeah, yeah, we'll have time for that. We'll have time for that. And it's just like the bonding factor was missing.
Hmm.
But yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from though too. Like, um, I've dated like all different types of people with different types of looks. Um, and I just to bring it out there, like I'm not dating continuously multiple people. I'm just speaking like on my past experiences.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, like I've noticed the difference. Like, say if I'll bring somebody around, like a family or friend, and they'll be like, "Oh, girl, that's not it." You know what I'm saying? Or like, or they'll be like,
Hmm.
"Oh yes, girl, he got some money. Go." You know what I'm saying? And it's more to me than that.
Hmm.
So, but when I'm in a relationship though, I would like for us to both be accomplished people. But that can vary. Like I don't necessarily require the person I'm with to be like, oh, I need you to have a G-Wagon and I need you to have, a master's degree and like,
Hmm.
so it's just I know that, I want a fulfilling life.
Hmm.
With a lot of excitement. I want to be a busy person in general. So I know I would definitely have to be with somebody who could understand that.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's a fulfilling life look like? And I'll tell you one thing I'm picking up on is something to do with growth or learning or something like that. I don't know why, but I'm feeling like you continuing to evolve as a person and to be able to have maybe emotional evolution with somebody where you like get to know each other really deeply and like learn new things about each other, yourself through learning about each other. But let me not put words in your mouth. I'm curious what a fulfilling life with a partner looks like for you.
Um, a healthy relationship. We're able to communicate about everything.
Hmm.
We're able to just explore life together. And just have it be like more than something superficial, because honestly I feel like when people look at you like you're attractive, you know it's just it's at a superficial level for most people. Having all aspects of relationship, not just surface level situations,
Hmm.
which I found to be more common than not. So
The surface level?
yes, unfortunately.
Hmm. Why do you think that is?
um um because I consider myself to be like a really reserved person.
Hmm.
So the people that know me, they know me, and the people that don't, they don't.
Hmm.
So off face value, people get a lot of opinions about me. So that's what I feel. But like, so I have a question for you.
Sure.
Um, so like in that instance, is it the same for you? Like, do you feel like you would want your person to be like the person that you're with to be accomplished? Are you okay with them just, like being cool, being them, and just having their essence around, you
Mhm.
know?
Right. I don't care at all about material achievement in the person that I'm with, because I think that what is needed from society and what is valued monetarily is not the same as what I value. There can be an overlap. And I really do appreciate being with a woman who is ambitious. That I like. I like someone that wants to grow in some way, mostly emotionally, because I have a really strong interest in emotional growth, since that has made me a happy person from a person that was depressed when I was younger because I didn't know myself very well.
That's
And
real.
yeah, so evolving emotionally has just been the most valuable thing to me. And that's how I knew that my wife wasn't just a girl I was dating, probably on our second or third date. I started to feel like this woman could be my wife because she would say things to me that made me feel like she knew me on a level that was deeper than I knew myself. She would call me out on things without trying to make me feel bad. She would be like, I wonder if you ever thought about, uh, that you didn't have that time with your dad or something like that. And I'd be like, what? What? No, no. And then I would just think about it later and I'd be like, holy shit, that's actually totally true. And I feel really called out by that. And slowly she helped me evolve that way.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, it was really awesome. And I was like, wow, this is a smart woman. And she's also academically smart, but that part is, we're not having like cocktail party chatter and talking, like labeling maps of Europe or something like that and
It's
testing
a
each other's skills.
bonus, you
Right,
know? I feel it.
right. But we are navigating the emotions of each of our individual wants and needs, pain that we feel, the whole spectrum of human emotion that you go through when you get to know someone or you just live. We've been together 12 years, 12 years of life together, and then raising a child together, uh, you know, partnering through her carrying a baby in her and me learning to be a father. That's some deep stuff to go through. And it's like, that's what I look for in a partner, somebody that can um, go through that stuff in a kind of mature, thoughtful way where we're figuring it out together and not just surviving. Because I think a lot of people can almost like cut a corner and they're just well enough matched that they can get through it and never talk about it. I need someone that we can contemplate our life experience.
That's
Um,
real.
yeah. Do you
Real. I
feel that
respect
way?
that.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely feel like I should be able to grow with my partner. Because I feel like a lot of times when you get in a relationship, it becomes like, especially in marriage, you become as one, but still at the end of the day, like, you can't focus on that other person to make you happy. Like, you have to do work within yourself, to feel that physical happiness. Because I actually was engaged, and I decided to let it go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It really wasn't a healthy situation, and I really feel like I couldn't have that dialogue with him that was necessary, and I started to see the difference in like our spiritual and emotional growth.
Hmm.
So like, definitely, I definitely understand where you're coming from, for sure, and I agree wholeheartedly. And honestly, I'm so happy for you because it's so many people who get stuck in that place. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it like I'm happy for you, honestly, that you were able to find somebody, find yourself, you know what I mean, and like grow and have a happy family.
Thank you. Yeah, without knowing that much about it, I'm curious to know more. I feel like uh, my, my story relates to yours a little bit because I was with somebody before my wife, and it was a longer term relationship, and I felt that I was doing something that wasn't healthy, that if we ended up getting married, we definitely would have been divorced.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do this. I think it's one major reason that people, their relationships end up not working out is they're trying to solve something through their partner. And what I was trying to solve is just never thinking about my depression. It took me a long time and a lot of therapy to figure out that's what I was trying to solve. But
Yeah.
I would just find different ways of distracting myself. And one way that I would do that is by being with people that had more problems than I did. Right.
Oh, I feel it. I feel it.
um, I never would have known this until years later, but I would just, I would have relationships with people where I could be like, oh, I know they're like this. Yeah, they can be tough, this and that, just to deflect. So nobody would be like, you act happy all the time, but I can tell there's something really difficult for you that's going on. But you would never admit that, and never. It would just be too uncomfortable for anyone to have said that to me, which is why
Yeah.
I needed someone as bold and emotionally brave as my wife is. But that's what I did, and I'm just lucky. I think I have just some sort of instinct in me that never considered marrying anybody until I met my wife. I never had a moment of saying, I want to marry this person until I met my wife. And I think it's just some sort of random lucky survival instinct where I was looking for somebody that could grow with me for a lifetime because that's so important to me. That's the type of relationship I want and have. And I think I've always wanted, but you sure wouldn't know it from the people that I chose before, um, where it was far more about me being the one in control, me being the one that was above them in knowledge or psychological knowledge or something. I always needed to be under control because you put me under a magnifying glass and I would have crumbled. Anyway, I'm curious if any of that brings up anything about, I don't know how sensitive, you said you just broke it. I don't know how recent just is, but that's probably a painful experience.
Yeah, it's been several months.
Okay.
Um, but I have a lot of projects going on right now, that are keeping me happy. And I actually am in a relationship, but I'm taking it slow.
Hmm. That's
So,
um obviously don't have to answer, but I'm curious if you know what made you feel that you could be engaged to be married to the person that you ultimately realized, oh my God, this is not right for me.
I honestly felt like, a lot of things that were holding me back in life, I was attracted to in him as well. And we kind of like bonded on that level.
You
And
mean you
that's how
had
I
similar
got to know.
problems?
You said what? I'm sorry.
I apologize for interrupting. Do you
No,
mean
you're
you had similar problems and that attracted you to him?
Yes, once I started to do like the emotional work, I realized I was like, okay, you deal with depression just like me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You give all of yourself to other people and not to yourself like me.
Mm,
And there were some, I would say emotional abuse things that we kind of both would do to each other.
mm,
That I realized like I genuinely wanted to be a better person, and I could start to see like, okay, like this is what I'm gonna have to do to change.
mm-hmm.
And once it got to that point, he was just like, who are you? Like, who is this person? Like, things aren't the same anymore. And, once it gets to that point, it's kind of like, it's not a good situation anymore. But yeah, I just realized, we're going through marriage counseling and we're not even married yet,
Mm.
so that was the biggest red flag for me.
Am I don't know if I'm picking this up correctly. Were you growing at different levels where you wanted to grow and he wasn't wanting to grow in the same direction or at all? Or
I definitely feel like he wanted to grow, but maybe not ready to do the emotional work like I was.
I see.
Um, yeah.
That's really hard. Hmm. I'm
Yeah,
just
'cause
reflecting. Yeah.
don't get me wrong, like I care deeply for him,
Sure.
still to this day.
Hmm.
But, I just saw, like in order to get my life to where I want it to be, I'm gonna have to make these decisions now,
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and there's actually an age difference as well too, so that might play a part. We're about 9 years apart in age difference, so
Hmm. It could, right? I mean, it's possible that it could work out. I think that that age difference could work. It's maybe like slightly. I don't know if it's different generation yet, but it's starting to get
almost,
there.
yeah,
Almost, right? So it's I can see how that is a pretty big divide that I guess gets smaller as you get older, but you'd have to have the like the soul things really in common, the desire to do the emotional work. Um, but you said something that I think is really impactful and many people go through, which is that you both sort of emotionally abused each other in ways that you almost expected and may have not randomly, but may have felt good in the moment. But then later it's like, oh, that was unhealthy. And we're both just so used to that. It feels almost like a kind of home in a
yeah.
in a sad way, you know? Um, and I'm curious about that. Like, do you feel like you have good checks in place that for your current partner, for instance, you can see when something like that's taking place, or you don't want that? Like, what if you crave that?
Interesting. Thought about that. I haven't thought about that. But I definitely noticed like vast differences in between the both of them. Um,
Yeah.
I definitely see it. And the level of treatment is different.
Hmm.
Um, Part of also another reason why I felt like it wouldn't work is because the person I was referring to about treating me like a trophy,
Yeah.
was the person I was getting engaged to, as opposed
Oh.
to yeah, as
Okay.
opposed to the person I'm dating now. He's like, I don't even want to touch you, like I just like talking to you, like, so I'm just like, that's what's up, of
Mhm.
course, like I appreciate uh physical intimacy, but I definitely appreciate emotional connection more. And I see the and like I was saying, when I see the differences, um I'm trying to think um the right word to say.
Mhm.
um I definitely feel like, you know not only is the person I'm dating now like willing to do the work, they also see like that it's important for me to get myself um sound and safe, and you know what I'm saying, within myself. And they appreciate the fact that I'm working on myself.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times I've been in a relationship with people, and once I wanted to do something for myself, I wanted to do something different
Mhm.
that they may not necessarily have liked. It's a whole nother scenario.
Mm.
um yeah, I used to be in high school and so desperate for like love and attention. I used to skip school with the guy I was dating. He was a senior, so it didn't matter for him, but I was a freshman, sophomore.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like I was really starting to slip on my academics, and I realized, I was like, this is not how like my parents raised me. It just made me think like, okay, I really have to get myself together. So I decided to in my sophomore year, I was 16, I decided to transition from like a public school to online school,
Mhm.
and I ended up graduating that year, just because I was so focused into, like, I was like, okay, like enough is enough. I really have to handle my business and take care of myself,
Hmm.
because my future is at stake.
Hmm.
Um so yeah. Like it was interesting, but it definitely shocked a lot of people. They were like, "Oh, like I knew her, she graduated 2 years early, so it just from that point on, I just realized that, I had to prioritize myself more than I would have necessarily wanted to. And as I got older, it definitely grew to the point where now like I'm doing a lot right now. I'm a property wholesaler, I'm a currency trader.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm CEO of 808 Dispatchers. That's a freight dispatching service.
Huh.
Yeah, and I'm president of an upcoming cannabis and hemp social media barter platform called BudSwap.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, so like I said, I like to achieve things, but within my own interests. And it definitely took some time realizing what I wanted for myself, the people that I love, and my family. That I could no longer just, continue to pour into other people and not myself.
Oh my gosh. So you've just said so many things that I need to process because they're such big, important things.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think what direction to go in. But I'm interested in all of them. Well, I guess one thing I'm really curious about is like it's unforgettable that just in this conversation, learning about you and seeing that you're an emotionally mature person, you seem to have your priorities in order from everything I can tell in the brief time I've known you in this conversation. Um, and then I learned that you tried to take your own life, and I'm just really curious um, if you had enough support growing up, if both your parents were there, if they were, I guess I'm curious what it was if you had enough support. Yeah.
Same kind of instance as you. Like I was living with my mom the majority of the time.
Hmm.
And then I went to middle school, like me and my mom, we actually started to have like conflict in the home.
Hmm.
And yeah, it got to a point where sometimes it was physical.
Hmm.
So I felt like, I should go and stay with my dad. Now, mind you, this man is just like he's so hard body, like he doesn't deal with emotions at all whatsoever. So,
Hmm.
it definitely was different for me to express myself as a kid.
Hmm.
And really feel like I could talk to people about how I felt because, when I was younger, I was always told like, so what if you cry? You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Like you just have to get over it. It's life. But that will leave you with a whole bunch of underlying problems,
Yeah.
thinking about, your emotions that way. And, there's been a time like I've abused I was gonna mess up the word, but mushrooms
Mhm.
and cannabis, just trying to really discover myself. But, I realized that, I'm looking at all these outside sources, like I said, and, the problem and the love that I'm looking for is within me. So,
Mhm.
like, when I noticed definitely too, even like regardless of me being attractive, when I started to value myself more, I attracted different types of people. So that
Mhm.
could be an instance as well too.
Very much so. Yeah, people notice it. It's amazing what different types of people, both friends and potential partners, come into your life when you know yourself better and you have a stronger sense of yourself.
Yeah, would you
Um,
say like from the emotional work that you've done on yourself, is that what led you to your wife in a sense?
yeah, absolutely. Because I could have just as easily missed the amazing person in front of me. And I probably would have if I met her several years earlier, because she wouldn't have fit the distraction dynamic that I required. didn't realize that I required it, but I required somebody that was attractive to me so that I could feel in control, and who had more problems, that at least evident problems, than me. That combination just made me like fatally attracted to somebody. Um, and I think, I was just serially in relationship after relationship with basically no break in between. And it was the first time in my life that I had like a year and a half of being single. Since I was 17, that hadn't happened to me.
Oh, wow.
And I finally had time to explore who I was and begin to touch the deep well of problems that existed within me. And I still hadn't figured most of it out, but I knew that there was something there. And it was right about then that I met my wife. So to answer your question, yes, absolutely. Being a person that was becoming more curious about myself, I was in therapy at the time, uh, is what allowed the relationship to take off the way it did. And then she helped to encourage me to change my therapist, to someone that could help me at the next level of problems I had, because my first therapist I needed, but was kind of like a dad to me.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, and that was what I needed at the time. And he helped me with therapeutic things as well, psychological things. But the therapist that I have had since moving to the Bay Area, where I live now from New York, where I met my wife, has just been able to bring me well beyond wherever I thought I'd be able to be. And I think changed the future of my family. My son is going to have a very different life, as I'm sure you would feel as well about your daughter. She's going to have a very different life, and hopefully an even better, even richer life, because of what you know and the way that you're able to bring her up. Do you feel that way? I don't want to impute that, but that's, I imagine.
Absolutely. That was another catalyst for, me ending the engagement because, I realized it was okay for me to be comfortable. It was okay, but I had a little one looking at me
Yeah.
and it was going to continue a cycle of something that I didn't want to happen. So, I just said, I have to, just be brave enough to start to do the work on myself and be able to do it without somebody holding my hand because that's what I was so used to,
Hmm.
but I definitely understand where you're coming from though too. um like you definitely do, like when you start to look in and like really try to figure out, what you want for your life, that's when, the universe will, provide you with, the tools and resources.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I kind of think of it as like we go in different directions without knowing the direction we're going in as we evolve as people. And if we choose to face the difficult parts of who we are, the more complex parts of who we are, then we end up going in that direction of like trying to better ourselves. We often meet other people that are trying to better themselves, which is a wonderful partnership, whether it's a relationship or a friendship. And it's like you're always like kind of randomly like hitting and missing, bumping into people in life. Some people end up being a bigger part of your life. Some people don't. But it's the direction that you point yourself in. I think a combination of your natural characteristics, ambition, emotional ambition, and what you kind of take the reins of your own life and say, I need to push myself in this direction, that puts you on that trajectory that allow you to ultimately have a better life, that will be a life of growth and positive development. That's how I interpret what you say of,
Yes, absolutely. I'm in a much better place than I was a few months ago, for sure.
that's
Um,
good.
you know, definitely like emotionally wise. And it's made me understand, that you have to be attracted to the right things in a person, you know, because some of it's not necessarily good for you.
Yeah, well, I think there's been some maturity in you with age. You've gone from how you described yourself when you were 16, to you're 24 now, and it seems like a lot has happened. Is your daughter saying hello to you right now? I know that look.
She has a handful of blueberries, and she's like, "Yes, I'm gonna troll on you right now."
My son was just also eating blueberries and like deciding which ones he wanted and like flicking one.
Crazy. That's brain food right there.
It is. That's good stuff right there. I learned recently that it's blueberry season right now, and the blueberries taste extra good. So I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. I love
Yeah.
blueberries. So, um, so, and are you still able to concentrate? Okay, we just have a few more minutes left in the dialogue, but is this
Oh
still
yeah, for sure.
okay? Yeah, I do find that like just with time in life, you evolve more. Having recently just turned 40, I have thought about how much I grew over my 30s and how I was still a person that barely knew himself at age 30. And now that I'm 40, it's like I want it to be a decade. If I think of it in decade long periods, not that I need to, um, then I want it to be a decade of insight, of knowledge, wisdom, and being able to slow down enough to do that. Now, you're at such a different stage of life in where you're starting. You have multiple companies. I was doing the same thing at your age. I was all about, I need to, make this part of my life. I need to build a successful foundation, a secure financial foundation. That's what I was doing. It's so wonderful to hear of that you're busy with productive, good things that are gonna, um, probably create a lot of good things. The financial part certainly, but also like what you learn and specialize in through these businesses is going to be fantastic for you.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, as I've gotten older, it's gotten more like that foundation is already built for me, and I am more thinking about how to be present and breathe and not be as anxious as I was when I was growing up, and just take time to appreciate what I have. There's a lot of beautiful things in life to appreciate.
That's so true. I understand that for sure. Um, Having a peace of mind is honestly the most one of the most important things to me.
Hmm. Yes. I think it's probably a good note to finish up on, but I will say I'm intrigued by the course that the dialogue has run, where we started with physical attractiveness, and I got some really interesting tidbits about what it feels like for you. And it very quickly turned into attractiveness in a partner in the context of leading a good life. And I think there's something to be learned from that, that the physical attractiveness part is interesting, but it really leads to the next step of like, where does this almost like more superficial instinctual thing uh, begin and end, and where does it lead to the deeper things that matter more to us, especially as we get more into our lives, into our 20s, 30s, whatever. So
Exactly. And I feel like you can definitely find um an attractive person that has all the qualities. You know what I'm saying, that you're looking for.
mhm.
So it's really awesome. That we're having the chance to talk about this for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I do. I do enjoy that a lot. To me, this is part of what I was talking about in my 40s, is spending more time meeting people and hearing their experience, even just for little bits. It's like we've known each other for an hour, and I just really appreciate hearing a bit of your story, and seeing how you've triumphed in many ways through a tremendous amount of adversity, and the direction you're going in, I think, is just really fantastic. So it's been a
Yeah,
pleasure.
I'm here to be an advocate for attractive people. Give them a chance. Find out what-
I love it. That's amazing. Cool. Well, thank you for having this dialogue with me.
Of course, anytime. I love to be back on whenever you have me.